What up, Kings? This your host, Obed from King's Table. That's Kings with a Y. And today we have our first interview slash conversation. Um, Today we're going to be delving into the experiences of what it's like to go through drug addiction, and the different, I guess, thought patterns that a drug addict faces in different situations, and how he kind of reflects on his life before. There's going to be a lot to talk about. I don't want to give away too much, but this is a dope conversation. So without further ado, cue the music. Yo, Hamzah, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. Glad to be here again.
I know,
Round
man.
two.
It sucks, dude. I'm so mad. Like, I don't know how, but the first recording of this got deleted. I'm
Yeah.
so mad. But hey, I feel like time passed, and like we can now like rehash it and like go back at it.
Yeah, definitely. There might even be some new perspectives. Like I've definitely had some growing within my sobriety, you know what I mean, and all that sort of in my life.
Yeah.
Since then.
You said today was your 1 year, right?
My 1 year was on Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
Today's Monday.
No, last Monday.
Okay.
Already bugging.
It's freaking crazy, man. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so like, how do you feel like now that it's 1 year?
Dude, like when I was thinking about it last week on Monday, it was euphoric, man. It really was. Like, it made me I got very introspective, and I just kind of thought about like the journey as a whole, like where I was at and where I am now, and like what I'm being able to accomplish and what I'm able to do, and like the difference is just like staggering. It's so dramatic. Like I'm not even the same person anymore. Like I've got like this newfound identity, you know what I mean? Before, like I used to heavily put myself in the box of just like, oh, I'm a drug user. That was like my personality trait. I was like, oh, I'm a drug user. That's what I do. I do drugs. Like that's everything about me. That's all you need to know. It's like I do drugs. I didn't have any interests or hobbies or anything of the sort, outside of when can I get high? Who's going to get me high? What am I getting high off of?
Yeah.
That was everything for about 12 years.
And that's a long time, bro. Like,
That's half my life.
Yeah. It's like, continue. Sorry, man.
No. It's just like, it's crazy because like it was half my life. Like the first 12 years, I was living under my parents' thumb, you know what I mean? Like doing whatever they told me. But like after that, like 13 to 25, I was just high every day. There was never a pause. Like I was literally high every day on some substance,
Yeah.
for 12 years.
It almost kind of like, like how you said, like that was your identity, like it consumes you, and like 12 years of like, I guess it's like a relationship, like
Yeah.
when you're in a relationship with something or somebody for 12 years, it's like, it's hard to like break away from that.
Yeah, or like separate your own personal identity within that thing,
Yeah.
Because like, you'll hear it a lot with people like in relationships, and they're like not vibing on it anymore or whatever. They're just like, I don't know who I am anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I've just gotten sucked into this relationship and I've been here for so many years. Like, I don't know who I am or what I want. You know what I mean? And it's very similar to like that sort of experience where it's like drugs were at the steering wheel. You know what I mean? I was just a passenger. Just like driving around, drugs taking me to do whatever it is it wanted to do, and I was just like, all right, I guess I'm here for the ride. This is what I do. I'm committed. There's no going back.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. This is it. This is life.
Now, like, how did you like get started like into drugs? Because I remember like I always shared the story with you, Pakistan Day show.
Oh, what's funny? That's one of my most memorable experiences because it was so fresh. It was so new back then.
Yeah. And I remember you just walking up to me and you're like, hey, I got something to tell you. Like, you were all timid and stuff. And I was like, okay, like, I didn't think anything of it, you know? And then you're like, I started smoking weed. And then I was like, it's about fucking time.
He's like, you fucking bitch.
Yeah. And then like, growing up, like, I seen you, like, take this course. And then, like, the whole time I was like, fuck, dude. Like, if I just said, nah, man, drugs ain't cool, dog. Don't do that shit. Like, like, I blame myself. And, you told me plenty of times, like, and even like that.
It is always interesting to think about, like, what if someone who I was using drugs with had been like, nah. Where would I have been? Would I have respected that opinion? Would I have taken it into consideration? From you, probably. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Hey, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, dog.
No, we make our own decisions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We live with, you know, there's no one to blame other than myself, you know, for those things, like, at all.
Yeah.
Granted, during my time of substance use, I was a victim. I used to love playing the victim. I used to practically get high off of that shit. I used to be like, oh, it's my mom's fault I use drugs. It's my dad's fault. It's the school's fault. It's fucking 9/11's fault I do drugs. Like, y'all made me this way. Like, you know, and it's not like that at all. It's like there was so many other avenues, and I forced myself into this one, and I saw it as like my only outlet or whatever.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case at all, you know? I just like kind of convinced myself of it.
Mm-hmm. Because you were using drugs. I'm sorry, I'm like stuttering a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But you were using drugs like in high school and middle school ish.
Yeah, end of 8th grade, beginning of 9th grade. 9th grade summer, going into 9th grade. Yeah.
So like, I can only imagine, like, you know, like, I feel like when you're in high school, you get somewhat of an identity of who you are. You know, a little bit.
I mean, I was still. I've been lost like my whole fucking life, you know what I mean? Like, I thought I knew what I wanted, especially like in high school. Like, I was like, oh, this is who I used to like do this thing, and like we all have a habit of doing it where we put ourselves and other people in these boxes of identities or personalities, and we're like, oh, this is what that person is. Like, they do this, they're that kind of person, you know? You play video games, oh, you're a nerd, that's all you do, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you play sports, you're a jock, like, that's all you do, that's all you know, like, that's your whole personality. But like, as we get older, like, you realize human beings are like such complex creatures, you know what I mean? We have like so many different like nuances within our personalities and our characteristics and things like that. And for me, like, I was still so painfully lost, like, in high school. I didn't know what I wanted. I spent a lot of time idolizing and idealizing like what I wanted to be, like playing through those, like, I don't do it so much anymore, but it's like pretty common where people like fantasize about their future or who they are, you know what I mean? They might romanticize an experience, or they fabricate experiences in their head, you know what I mean? And I used to do that a lot, like when I was younger, you know, like, oh, imagine if I did this, like, how cool would I be if I became like this kind of person, and I had these sort of experiences, and then I'd create those experiences in my head, but like, it was all fabricated, you know, like none of it was real. I wasn't investing enough time in myself, like, in real life to discover those things genuinely, you know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like a year and a half ago, my original sobriety date is December 14th, 2019, you know what I mean? That's when like this all started. And like from that point to like now, like I've discovered so much things about myself that I never thought were there, you know? Like I didn't realize how much I enjoyed music or like reading or like painting and art and things like that, or like the level of compassion that I can have towards like other people and that level of empathy. Like I didn't really think I possessed those characteristics or those personality traits or those interests, you know what I mean? Because I was so busy being high, you know? And now that I'm sober, like, and my mind is like way more clear, like I can feel the distinct differences and like how my brain breaks down like problems and like how I handle them.
I feel like it's lighter, right? Like your mind just moves more fluidly, because like,
yeah,
when I'm on my phone, like right now, like I don't really tell people, but like I'm on this like detox diet.
Okay.
I'm not watching TV. I'm not on my phone.
Oh, okay, like an electronics detox.
Yeah, just because like
or a
those things,
detox.
they're just so consuming, bro.
Yeah.
Like you're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever.
Hours on end.
Hours, and then you look and you're like, fuck, I just wasted a whole day.
Yeah.
And then now you see all these things that like, you know, when you consume, you know, information, it hits you, it hits your psyche, and you're just like, oh, that shit pissed me off. Now your whole mood's fucking shifted.
Yeah.
Like I've noticed, like when I was off, like since I've been off, like my
How long
mind,
you been off?
it's only been like 3-4 days.
Oh shit. Okay, so this is a new.
Yeah, this is new.
This is a new venture for you.
Yeah, and it's just more so like I'm doing it just to see like what are things in my life that I'm really addicted to, and what are things that I'm okay leaving behind, and just leave those behind, you know. And
how's it feeling 4 days in?
4 days in, like the first 2 days, it was like, yeah, dude, I got this. And yesterday, it was like, dude, it's started itching, man. Started getting that itch. Like, dog, I want to go on Instagram, you know. Like I smoked my jewel, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I want to fucking smoke the jewel. And like even now, I'm just like, oh god, like I want to smoke the fucking jewel. But I'm like, I can't, you know. Like I was like, I committed myself. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go through these last 10 days because the last 10 days of Ramzan, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Dude, it's only 10 days left.
10 days left, bro. 20 days passed.
Alrighty, Jesus, man.
Yeah.
Have you been fasting?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool, man.
Yeah. But what I wanted to get into was like, you know, like your drug use, like where did that start and like what was that trajectory of like?
That trajectory was fucking explosive, man, because it started out really cute, like everyone else, like, oh, I just smoke weed with my friends, you know, I smoke weed and then I watch like Pineapple Express on repeat for fucking 13 hours, you know what I mean? And go watch fucking like all those Judd Apatow movies, you know, from that time. Like I'll be watching like Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Step Brothers, like I don't even think that's a Judd Apatow movie, but you get the idea, like those comedies from that time, like, and I just get high and like hang out with my friends and like listen to music. And then back then, because like I was such a reserved individual, I was very shy, very timid, you know. And I used to have my friends, and we were like the nerdy kids. Like we would be in high school playing like hide and go seek and fucking tag and like run around like Naruto fucking characters and like watching anime and shit. And then like I'm over here like smoking weed, and they didn't like that. You know, they always used to like pick on me for smoking weed and that sort of stuff. And like eventually they stopped hanging out with me, and then I was like all alone like smoking weed, and I was like, fuck these guys. Like I need new friends. And then I got into like. It was very random, like, because, like, these people that I ended up hanging out with, they were, like, so starkly different to me and, like, my personality and things like that, but we shared that commonality of, like, smoking pot, so I was, like, hanging out with, like, the drug dealers and, like, the gangbangers and things like that somehow, but they were just using me, you know what I mean, because I had a place for us to get high. Like, I used to get high in my own house, you know? My mom didn't know what weed smelled like at the time, you know? She didn't really have a concept for that, so, like, I would just invite them over, and we would all get high. And my mom was definitely like wary. She was like, this is like a dramatic shift from like what my friends used to be to what they are now, you know? And then I got into like, you know, I was just like smoking weed with them and like hanging out with the bad crowd, and they were like tagging and like selling drugs and that sort of stuff. And that went on for maybe, I'd say a year of just pure smoking pot, you know? And the next thing I know, it's like, I'm doing ecstasy at 7 a.m. before first period every day for like 6 months. And then the next thing is like I'm eating Xanax and snorting coke like in the middle of geology class and things like that. And then it eventually got to the point where like I remember I was like waking up and I'm like freebasing like morphine and fucking Oxycontin off of tinfoil before school starts. And like
damn.
Yeah, and I was only 15 at the time, you know, like
shit.
Now like 10th grade is ending, 11th grade is starting, and this is where I'm at, you know, like I'm like snorting coke and eating like all these benzodiazepines and downers and things like that. And that was like my jive. Like that's what I really clicked with. Like a lot of people like prefer stimulants like ecstasy, Molly, whatever. They're both the same fucking drug.
Yeah.
You know, like those sort of stimulating drugs like an Adderall. But for me, like being high was like just being like slumped over, like drooling on myself, like heroin type stuff. Like oxy, morphine, Xanax, like hydrocodones, like whatever.
Like downers.
Yeah, downers, 100%. Like that was like my bread and butter. I was like, dude, this is like my jam. Like this is what I was meant to do. And that was like the first time in my life where I was like, I felt drawn to something, and I was like, oh, I feel at home here. I feel comfortable, you know. And that was like the first, like, because prior to that, I felt very uncomfortable. I always felt like an outsider, a loner, out of place or whatever. And then I found drugs, and I was like, oh, this is my new home. Like, this is the first time in my life where I felt, like, comfortable with myself. And I finally, like, felt like connected to something.
Yeah.
Or, like, even those friends that I had, like, I started connecting with them. Like, I remember I came home one day and I had zeroed out my head. Like, I shaved my head. I was wearing, like, all white tees and, like, Dickies and, like,
bro, I remember
high
those days.
socks and shit.
I remember those days, man. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what the hell? Bro looked like he just walked out of, like, a t-shirt factory.
Yeah. And, like, you know, wearing, like, 501 Levi's and fucking Nike Cortez and shit like that.
Yeah.
And, like, I was just like, this is who I am now. And then I started, like, tagging and shit like that. You know, like,
were you any good at tagging?
I was fucking trash, but I loved being a vandal.
But
I loved being a vandal, dude. Like, I was just like, what can I fucking destroy in this society? Like, what can I fucking ruin?
I feel like that's just like for kids our age, like, you know, we just want to be like destructive, you know, whether it's like on game, like on a video game, or it's like in reality where like we just act out, you know.
Yeah.
But I think there's just like
It was far more malicious though, where I was like, I want to do some damage.
Like you wanted to like break windows.
Yeah, I wanted to break windows and like ruin someone's life and like steal shit. I was like, I'm trying to be a villain here. And that's like when I got into like stealing and things like that. Like I was a major klepto for like 7-8 years. No, yeah, 7-8 years roughly, you know, when I started getting into stealing. And I would steal shit just for the sake of stealing. I'd be stealing like Q-tips, like women's purses, like lipstick and like makeup and like toilet paper, which is now relevant.
Yeah.
Enough. But like I was just stealing all sorts of stuff, and like I'd go to the mall and see like what can I get away with stealing? Like what can I steal? I'd steal like a shirt and never wear it. I'd steal hats and like all this other stuff. Or like I'd go to school, and I remember this like very distinctly. I remember I was in drama class, and it was fresh off of Christmas break, so everyone was back, you know. And that was when the iPod Classic had came out, the 180 gig. And I remember, this kid was just sitting there, and I walked over, and because he was the TA, he was like sitting in the back or whatever, watching everyone do their little monologues and things like that. And I walked over, and the tissue box was next to him. And as I was grabbing the tissue, I stole his iPod Classic, you know what I mean? And then I turned around and I sold it for like $40. It was like $500 item, you know, at the time.
God, $40, bro.
Yeah, I was like, hey, I got 2 grams of weed, and I got like a Xanax. Woo, like, fucking big pimping, you know, like I got this shit. And the thing is that sucks is like that was like something I was good at. Like it was like of all the things I can be good at, like I was good at stealing shit. You know what I mean? Like, and like we'd run around like breaking into cars and houses and shit like that, like selling gold. You know, so like it was a very downward explosive trajectory to like being just an absolute scumbag, like a dirtbag, you know.
And but you would, I feel like you would attribute that more to like the people you were with, right?
100%.
Because I feel like
Peer
if
pressure.
it was just like, oh, if the finish line was just like, oh, we're only gonna smoke weed, like that would have been the finish line.
Yeah, that would have been it.
But it's like it moved past.
Yeah, and that's like where that whole thing of like weed as a gateway drug, like a lot of people say it's not, but like for what it was at the time, like I do believe it was, because had I not started smoking weed and met drug dealers where they were like, yo, I don't got no weed, but like, you want to try ecstasy? And I'd be like, well, I want to get high. Yeah, let's try it, you know? And that's where that sort of thing started. And then there was a lot of peer pressure involved as well, you know? And then eventually it just became like, I was doing drugs that my friends wouldn't do. Like, I remember, like, I was like, yo, let's go smoke some angel dust. Like, let's go smoke some PCP. I haven't done that in a while. You know what I mean? Like, let's go get some Sherm, you know? And they're like, dude, you're fucking nuts. And I was like, you're fucking pussy, bro. Like, I'm just trying to get high. You know, like, how high can I get? Like, I don't read them, I eat them. I don't care what drugs I'm doing. Let me just do some fucking drugs.
Yeah, dude. And I think, like, you know, wait. How should I say that? I'm going to pause for a little bit. Just get my mind together. Like, when it comes to, like, drugs and using drugs, like, I feel like the deeper that you go in, the deeper you get pulled in. Because it's like, you get high and then you find out, oh, there's something that could get me more high. And then you just get pulled into that, you know?
Yeah.
And, like...
And it's definitely, like, addict mentality. Like, you... And other people who have, like, minorly used substances, smoke pot, drink alcohol here and there, you guys don't do that where you're like, one day I'm going to smoke weed, tomorrow I'm going to start snorting meth, you know? Normal people don't think like that at all. But that's, like, as I've gotten sober and I went through rehab, it's like we, as addicts, have, like, this natural temperament and inclination towards, like, using these substances or anything where we just, like, get obsessive compulsive, like, to do these things. And it took me a while to, like, really see that, where it's like I've always been an addict, I just finally found the thing to like unlock that, you know? So most people aren't smoking weed for 6 months and then turn around to start snorting cocaine like every day, you know? Normal people don't do that. They just smoke pot, and even then when they smoke weed, they know when to stop. They're not sitting there smoking 2 ounces in a sitting, running out of weed and then going out to steal shit to get more weed, you know? They're like, all right, there's no more weed, I'll get some tomorrow, you know? Like, or like, they're like, I've smoked a gram, like, that's more than enough for me. I was like, more. Like, if I'm not on the bridge of death, like, I'm not high enough.
God.
And that's exactly how I used to like to live. I was like, if I'm not at a near death, I'm not high enough. No matter what I was doing. And that's why I overdosed fucking 3 times, you know what I mean? Thankfully, I'm alive. Don't know why. Thankful for it, but
Alhamdulillah. I'm going to say alhamdulillah.
You know? But it's just like that natural addict mentality, you know, and that sat with me for a decade over, you know? And I was just like, this is who I am. This is what I do. I will die doing drugs.
Yeah.
You know, I never thought I'd get sober. Ever. And now I am. And I got a year, you know?
No, that's... And
it's a fucking blessing.
Hell yeah, bro. And I mean, I can only imagine, like, you know, what that experience was like for your family, you know?
Dude, like, I remember I used to, like, when the drugs were off eventually, you know, that brief moment where, like, eventually, you know, the drugs fade off, and I'd sit there and I'd have, like, I was, like, 16, 17, and I'd look down and I'd be like, what the fuck am I doing with myself? Like, I'd have those feelings where I was like, I knew I was an addict, you know? Like, I'd come off the drugs and I'd just be like, dude, like, what am I doing? Like, is this all really worth it? And then, you know, the addict in my brain, you know, he's just like, yeah, it's worth it, dude. Like, hell yeah, it's worth it. Like, look how much fun we have. Look how much fun we're having. But a lot of the times it stopped being fun because it became like a full-time job, dude. I was like waking up at 7 o'clock. I was like, all right, who are we going to steal from? Like, I got to walk 10 miles to the pawn shop and find a homeless person to sell my things for me because I was a minor, you know? I was like, how am I going to get these drugs? Like, I got to walk like 10 miles, get this homeless person, find one I can trust enough to like break him off like a few dollars so I can take the rest of the money, go hit up my drug dealer, and then my drug dealer doesn't hit me back, and I'm sitting around in a park for like 12 hours and it's like midnight and he still hasn't hit me back, and like I'm running out of things to do, so we go to the liquor store and start stealing shit, like doing bottle runs and things like that, you know? And it's just like, it was exhausting. Because it was like 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. Like, it was like a 24-hour job, you know, trying to get high, sustaining that high. Where am I going to get high? You know? Or, like, it would become like I was hitting up people just to use them, you know what I mean? And that's like, it was like one of those things, like, we'd be all together, like my buddies who I was using drugs with, and like, there'd be those days where it's like we couldn't get enough money together to get us all high, or like our dealers weren't getting back to us. And we'd sit there for like 30 minutes and we'd be like, oh, there's no drugs? All right, I guess I'll just go home. You know what I mean? Like, we don't even enjoy each other's company enough to, like, actually want to be around each other unless there's drugs involved.
Yeah.
Any something. Minimum weed.
Yeah.
Minimum weed. You know? If there isn't at least one substance there, like, there was no point in us hanging out. But if there were drugs there, we would be sitting there for 10, 13, 14 hours, just nonstop getting high, bullshitting, like, having fun, so to speak. You know what I mean? But if there was no drugs, like, we weren't fucking with each other, you know?
Damn, so it was like that, man. Like, because I in my mind, like how I see it is like a group of friends that just do drugs. That's just like a group of drug addicts. But it's like at the end of the day, like I feel like everybody's in it for themselves almost.
100%. And we were stealing from each other at that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'd be pinching people's sacks, like, you know, while they're all smacked out, I'd be like pinching off some of their coke or a little bit of their oxy and things like that, like shaving it off, like, or like I'd be like creating small little cliques with, because our group was fairly large. It was 10, 12 of us.
Yeah.
You know, so like I'd be like, oh, I'll hit up this guy. He usually has money. I'll go hang out with him, you know. We'll get high together and then we'll hit up everyone else, you know. And so like I was creating these little niches and small little cliques within like our own friend group. Yeah. But like it made me realize like we don't actually like each other.
Yeah.
We like drugs and getting high together, but when it comes down to it, we don't actually like each other. And we were always like fighting over like who gets what and like distributing the money and like distributing the drugs and things like that. You know, it was just like not a sustainable relationship, but I stayed in it for like 10 plus years.
Yeah, like, because I know like drugs themselves, like anything can be a drug, right?
Yeah, dude. The way people treat like I like how you used like social media. That's like a really good example of like a drug that isn't like a substance, you know? It's an electronic device, but people get sucked into it. People get withdrawals from it, you know what I mean? Or there's even people like, I read it a lot on the, I personally don't get this feeling, but like a lot of people like say like Instagram lowers their self-esteem and things like that because they see like these lifestyles that people are living through these very specific lenses that they've created for people to view.
It's a highlight reel.
Yeah, it's a highlight reel, you know? And like it may not even be as fun as Instagram is making it seem, or like Snapchat or whatever. It's just glorifying it through like this filter and this lens of like these moments, you know? And like people will say like, oh, it's like not good for my mental health, and I'm like, that fucking sucks that you have to live with that. Like I personally, because I was so disconnected from society, I love social media. I think it's like a really useful tool to like connect people. Like I talk to people like in Europe and things like that who like things on my page, and I'm like, dude, that's fucking sick. Like I'm talking to someone who's like thousands of miles away, but we have similar interests, you know what I mean?
I think it's definitely good for that reason, you know, like that connection. You know, I was listening to Gary Vee the other day, and he said the exact same thing. He's like, bro, like you have no idea how unprecedented of a time we're living in right now. He's like, like you said, we could talk to someone from halfway across the world.
Yeah.
And that's a connection. Now we're networking halfway across the world.
Yeah. Yeah,
over what
100%.
from where we're at, you know. And I think like you said something very specific. You said tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool, but it's like, you know, where for me and like other people that use it as like a form of consumption,
Yeah.
right? Where it's like, oh, I'm gonna consume, I'm gonna go
Yeah,
like,
I'm gonna watch
scroll.
videos and like shit, and
Yeah,
I get you.
and so like they just get lost in that. I got lost in that, you know. But I feel like, you know, when you consume quote unquote drugs, you know,
Yeah.
it's all for a reason. Like I feel like, you know, the people that don't like social media because it lowers their self-esteem.
Yeah.
It's like that's because you have low self-esteem. It's not
Naturally.
lowering your self-esteem. You already have naturally low
It's
self-esteem.
just like forcing you to be further aware of it, and it's like identifying what those things that you consider to be lowering your self-esteem to be. Whatever it is.
Exactly.
Like what is that one phrase that they use online? FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
You know, like people suffer from that shit. They're like, "Oh, I wish I was there. Like I could have taken a picture. Like it would. They made it look so cool to be there. You know." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "That's fucking sucks, bro. That like you can't experience that within your own life. You know, like there's no happy medium for you where you're feeling satisfied in the events that are being taken into your own life. You know, and whatever
Yeah.
avenues you're creating for yourself, where you're like seeing what somebody else is doing. You're like, damn, I wish I was there. Like I wish I was doing that. Like that fucking sucks. Like that's really disappointing to hear."
Yeah, no. And then what I'm trying to carry it too is like, you know, I feel like it's a self-reflection, right? And
Yeah.
it kind of like numbs you, right? You like people. I feel like people consume drugs to numb themselves. Do you think that was the same for you?
100%. It was escapism through and through. It was anything that could detach me from not having to look at myself, you know, because my self-esteem when I was using drugs was bottom the fuck out. I was a very self-deprecating, very self-loathing individual. Like I felt very worthless, you know. I didn't believe like I was worthy of like sustaining relationships. I wasn't worthy of like success. I didn't have talents, skills, personality, you know.
Damn.
And like drugs used to just kind of cushion that. They used to be like, it's okay, bro. Like you might be like a lonely loser piece of shit, but at least you can get high. You
Yeah.
know? And that was like a comfort for me. I was like, yeah, I don't have to think about these things because I can just get high and numb them, you know? And I lived with that for fucking ever. You know what I mean? Like,
It's a hard pill to swallow, man.
yeah. And it was the thing is, it was a pill I was forcing myself to swallow because, like, perspective truly is reality. And, like, once I started getting sober and I realized, like, I am worthy, I do have talents, I have skills, I can be attractive, I can be drawn into these relationships, and I can sustain them, like, it all started to, like, happen. And, like, before I used to view myself as, like, this loser drug addict, like, incapable of success or, like, anything valuable or meaningful, you know, very self-deprecating. I used to believe that's what people saw, you know, but now I talk to people and they're like, they say things about me and I'm like, damn, that's what you actually see? Like, that is fucking nuts. Because it really was all in my head. Like, we are all like...
You all paint a story in our mind.
Yeah, of ourselves. We paint this own narrative of ourselves and then the lesser ego of us, like, feeds it. You know, that low self-esteem, that self-deprecating, like, apathetic human being is just like, yes, like, give me more fuel. Like, you are a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, you are not worth anything. Like, yeah, this is who you are, you know? But that's not the case at all. And it's really hard for people to break out of that cycle, you know? But, like, drugs for me, that was my out.
Yeah.
I didn't have to think about those things because I was too busy being high. I was just shot the fuck out. Like, my brain was just, like, mush.
Yeah.
I wasn't producing thoughts about myself. I was just, like, drooling on myself, like, slumped over in a chair, like, watching two fucking meth heads, like, fight over the last fucking point, you know?
God damn.
We used to play this game where we would all take 300 milligrams of Seroquel and see who could stay awake the longest. So we would play, like, game. I don't know if you know what Seroquel is, but it's like it's an antipsychotic medication, and it's very fucking powerful. Like, it's a strong drug.
Yeah.
We would each take, like, 300 milligrams, 400 milligrams, and then we play, like, a game of Monopoly and see who could last the longest. And that was us having fun. Like, that was our version of, like, betting on ourselves or, like, having fun and things like that. Or, like, oh, let's see who can take the most, you know what I mean? And I was like, fuck that, I'm gonna win this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a dome 500 milligrams right now.
God damn.
Which is a lot. Like, that
I mean,
shit it's a lot.
I took like 150 ibuprofen. That's my cap.
You know?
They're like, did you like ever reflect? Did you ever have a time in your life where you're like, damn, what the fuck am I doing?
Every night when the drugs wore off. Every night. I would feel, yeah, every night once the drugs were off, I was alone at home and I'm trying to go to sleep. A lot of the times it was hard, especially when I was using stimulants like meth and cocaine.
Yeah.
You know, it was hard to sleep, but like the drugs would wear off and I'd sit there and I'd be like looking at my hands. Like my brain is just like drained of endorphins, you know, my face is all tingly and itchy. Like I felt like my body was rotting on the inside.
Yeah.
Like it's a terrible feeling coming off of that shit. But I used to sit there and I'd be like, what am I doing? Like, I used to like playing video games. I sold all my video games for drugs. You know, I do it now, but like you remember me as a kid.
Yeah.
I was such a gamer, you know what I mean? I loved video
we
games.
would spend the night at your house like for like 2 days straight.
Yeah, and we just play
And
video
just
games.
play video games, play outside.
Yeah. You know,
That was the shit. That was the
and
shit.
I would and that was like around the time that those things stopped happening, you know, when I started using drugs, you know, because we used to do them like through elementary school, junior high, and then like once high school hit, my mom found out I started smoking weed. Like she was like, nope, no more of this. Like you're not gonna be getting high, like and doing this stuff with your family, with your cousins, you know. And those were like things that I would always look back on, and like I would miss them while I was using substances, like living a normal life, you know.
Kings, that was part 1 of drug addiction. You know, I feel like I always learn a lot when I walk away from these conversations / interviews, whatever you want to call them. You know, and I would like to definitely know what you guys took away from it. So please go ahead, leave a comment in the section below. You know, thank you guys again for all your support. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and, you know, please leave reviews. You know, that'll definitely help us grow. Thank you guys again for taking the time to listen. Cue the outro.